The legal battle between HYBE and former ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin has entered a critical phase. So in this video, we're going to break down the key arguments from both sides during the court hearing that happened on June 12th, 2025. I've thought about whether I should cover this or not because right now it's a BTS Festa period. It's supposed to be celebratory. And I didn't want to kill the vibe. But, you can always come back and watch this later. And for those of you who have joined our community recently and subscribed to my channel recently, I've been covering this issue for a while. And full disclosure, I'm a shareholder of HYBE. And, the reason why I invest in this company is because, first of all, I love BTS and I believe in BTS, and so I believe in the company that BTS has built or helped build, that is HYBE, which was formerly called Big Hit. There's still a label called Big Hit under HYBE, and I also listen to and love other artists under HYBE. So on this channel, I not only cover artist related issues and react to them, but also cover corporate issues because I have seen that a lot of fans are interested in those areas as well. Okay, so in this video is about the legal battle between HYBE and Min Hee-jin, and I'm assuming that you guys all know what has been happening since last year with Min Hee-jin, ADOR, NewJeans, and HYBE, everything. Okay, and Min Hee-jin is, yes, the woman who has said in her private conversation with the vice presidents of ADOR at the time that February 4, 2024, 1 year before BTS returns from military service, this is when HYBE is at its weakest. We end HYBE and Bang Si-hyuk at this time. And I get furious each time I look at this message, right? And she has even, considered, has mentioned or had a conversation with the shaman who told her to end BTS, not drag it out like SM did, be determined every single day. And I don't know, it's kind of refreshing to look at this Kakao Talk message today, now that all the BTS members are out in the society. Of course, we still have Suga left, but he is at least not trapped inside the military base, right? So she thought that HYBE is at its weakest when BTS is still in the military. Now what? They're back. All right, so let's cut to the chase. First of all, as a quick summary, there was a court hearing that happened on June 12th, and there were several articles written about it. Now the thing is, so the trial, or not the trial, the court hearing was open to the public, and I'm assuming that the journalists were there to write reports. But then I found primarily 4 articles that were quite decent and comprehensive, but still, the whole story was kind of segmented. So I looked through each article and then combined them to provide a full picture of what happened, and I have also attached like a summary here and there. And of course, as always, I have also included some references to relevant materials here and there, including Min Hee-jin Kakao Talk messages. Okay, so let's start here. So here's the title: Min Hee-jin sacrificed ADOR, NewJeans, and HYBE for her own gain. And of course, that's an argument made by HYBE during the court hearing. And this particular journalist, decided to make that as a title of the piece. The legal battle has officially begun between former ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin and HYBE, ADOR's parent company, over a put option dispute. On the afternoon of June 12th, Seoul Central District Court's Civil Division 31st, with the presiding judge Na Min-soo, held the first hearing in the lawsuit filed by Min Hee-jin and 2 others against HYBE. demanding a stock buyback payout based on a put option clause. Because the same court is also handling HYBE's separate lawsuit against Min Hee-jin and one other party seeking confirmation of shareholder agreement termination, both cases were heard together in a joint session that afternoon. And when he said the lawsuit filed by Min Hee-jin and two others against HYBE, I'm assuming that they are the previous VP, vice presidents of ADOR. That is Shin Dong-hoon and Lee Sang-woo. Okay. Next, this is a passage from another article, providing some background and context for this hearing. In November 2024, after stepping down from her position as an internal director at ADOR, Min Hee-jin formally notified HYBE that she would exercise the put option under their shareholder agreement. This clause, one of the key features of their contract, entitled her to sell her shares back to HYBE at a price calculated as 13 times ADOR's average operating profit over the previous 2 years, multiplied by her 75% shareholding portion. We have extensively talked about this before on our channel. According to ADOR's audit report released in April 2024, Min Hee-jin held 573,160 shares, about 18% of the company. Based on that formula, her claim amounts to approximately 26 billion Korean won, which is about 200 million US dollars. But HYBE says it notified Min Hee-jin in July 2024 that the shareholder agreement had been terminated due to a breach of trust, and therefore the put option was no longer valid. I think there was one of the videos that I made either last year or this year where I explained about the whole put option deal and the whole calculation. So if I can, I will find it and attach the link to it in the description. Okay? All right, moving on. During the hearing, HYBE's legal representatives repeatedly emphasized that the core of this lawsuit is the attempt to take NewJeans away. They argued that an internal audit conducted in April 2024 revealed grounds for termination of the shareholder agreement. Min Hee-jin's legal team, however, countered that some of the materials HYBE submitted were obtained without consent and are therefore inadmissible as evidence. According to HYBE, their shareholder agreement was officially terminated in July 2024, and Min Hee-jin was dismissed from her role as CEO in August. In November, she resigned from her position as an internal director and notified HYBE of her intent to exercise the put option, demanding a buyback based on a valuation of around 260 billion Korean won. HYBE insists that because Min Hee-jin had already violated the contract, she had forfeited her rights as a shareholder, meaning the put option is no longer enforceable. At the heart of this dispute is whether the shareholder agreement remains valid. HYBE must prove that Min Hee-jin breached the contract to justify its termination, while Min Hee-jin must prove that the termination was invalid in order to assert her right to the put option payout. In the end, while the case involves NewJeans, the underlying right is clearly about money. All right, so that's a good context and background. So here's a summary of what we have read so far. So Min Hee-jin, she was a former ADOR CEO, and she is suing HYBE to claim 260 billion Korean won under a put option clause in their shareholder agreement. HYBE's position is that they're claiming Min Hee-jin violated the agreement by secretly planning to take NewJeans out of ADOR. And they're saying that it rightfully terminated the contract in July of last year due to breach of trust. And they're claiming that because the agreement was terminated, Min Hee-jin's put option rights are no longer valid. On the other hand, Min Hee-jin is arguing that the put option was exercised in November 2004, before HYBE's contract termination took effect. and she's disputing the validity of HYBE's evidence, claiming it was obtained without consent, and saying that the dispute is being distorted from a corporate governance issue into a personal attack. So the legal focus is that the court must decide whether the shareholder agreement was still valid when the put option was exercised, right? And the case basically hinges on who breached the contract first, and whether the termination was lawful. And the bottom line is that even though NewJeans is at the center of this narrative, the true battle is about control and the contract validity and massive payouts. Okay, and from here on, we're gonna read about what each side said in court that day on June 12th of 2025. Now, I don't think Min Hee-jin was present in court, so it was basically the legal battle between Sejong Law Firm, who represents Min Hee-jin, and Kim In-jung, who represents HYBE. All right, starting with HYBE. That day, HYBE stated, the purpose of the shareholder agreement was to ensure ADOR's growth and development. To achieve that, the defendant, Min Hee-jin, was obligated not to engage in any behavior that could harm ADOR, but she violated the obligation and acted against the purpose of the agreement. Because of these confirmed violations, we terminated the contract, and as a result, we exercised our call option. In 2024 alone, ADOR paid Min Hee-jin 2.7 billion Korean won in salary. And I don't think we have known about this exact amount. At least I didn't. So I think this is some new information. Please let me know if otherwise. Yet, behind the scenes, she was trying to take NewJeans away. Now she's asking us to buy her shares for 27.8 billion Korean won based on the value when she was still at ADOR. That's just unacceptable. 도저히 수용할 수 없다. They continued. The defendant's side keeps trying to downplay everything as if it all started with the audit. But even before that, on March 14th, 2024, Min Hee-jin was already questioning the details of the exclusive artist contracts. 전속 계약을 자세히 보자는 취지로 얘기하고 있다. On March 30th, the parents of NewJeans sent a complaint email. The defendant now claims the audit was triggered by those parental complaints. But the fact is, Min Hee-jin and the parents already had a meeting at the ADOR office on March 29th. The presentation materials produced during that meeting, which we have submitted to the court, clearly state that the ultimate goal was to break away from HYBE. The materials also include points like raise plagiarism suspicions. Boom. Okay, so plagiarism about eyelids plagiarizing NewJeans. That's the framework, or they were trying to create. And as we have seen for the past 2 weeks, Min Hee-jin is trying her best, and even NewJeans. They're sharing the same legal team, Sejong Law Firm. They're trying their best to prevent HYBE's legal team from using all these messages and presentation files that have not been revealed to the public as evidence. So, but it sounds like this will be a crucial piece that could make a difference in this court case. All right, moving on. HYBE added that the internal materials they obtained through the audit included statements like ultimately break away from HYBE, 궁극적으로 HYBE를 빠져나간다, and raise plagiarism allegations, 표절 의혹을 제기한다, which they submitted as written evidence. When Min Hee-jin's legal team tried to block the disclosure of that evidence in court, HYBE pushed back, saying these are things already widely reported in the press. 언론 등에도 많이 보도된 내용. And yes, in fact, the very statements ultimately break away from HYBE. 궁극적으로 빠져나간다, 하이브를 빠져나간다, has been already reported by media agency called 세계일보 last year on April 2023. Okay, moving on. Still HYBE. HYBE further argued, when it comes to ADOR's growth and success, the presence of NewJeans, the company's only artist, was absolutely essential. Artists must be active during their contract period. But Min Hee-jin instead saw doubts and agitated the parents. She even instructed her own deputy executives or vice presidents to send complaint emails on behalf of the parents on March 29th and 30th. She now claims that everything started with the March 31st parental complaint, but we have already submitted evidence that the email draft was prepared a day earlier on the 30th. They continued. Oh, and yes, the vice presidents or vice deputy executives are 이상우 and 신우석. They continued. If you look at how the draft was created, it started by pulling specific clauses from the exclusive contract, especially the termination clause. 계약 조항, 전속 계약서에 나와 있는 계약 조항 몇 가지, 해지 조항부터. Okay, and searching for sections that could be challenged. They even discussed who should receive the complaint email, deciding to use a vice president rather than someone who hadn't formally joined ADOR yet. So it's basically these people, key players, including the deputy executives or VPs and parents and Min Hee-jin are in the same room and talking about, okay, so we're going to send, the parents are going to send an email, a complaint email, and then one of the vice presidents will open the email. Actually, yes. So they are making these secret strategies behind the doors. The phrase 의아하다, this is pretty funny. The phrase strange or 의아하다 in Korean, which Min Hee-jin often uses, and that's a fact, was included in the email text. Interesting. Yeah, this is something I noticed and other people notice as well online, that whenever Min Hee-jin makes statements, there are certain phrases that appear a lot, like 의아하다 or 묻고 싶습니다, I would like to ask. But then, since people have realized that this is her go-to phrases, I think they have tried to stay away from using that phrase. Anyways, she even gave instructions like, send it from so-and-so's mom. 누구 엄마에게 보내라고 해. So, certain members' mother. Or, this was interesting, or have Hain's father send it. Hain이 아버지로 붙여. With that level of involvement, how could we not launch an investigation or audit? That's the question we're putting back to the defendants. Now, this is the first time where HYBE's legal team specifically referred to like Hain's father in court. At least the first time that we're reading about it from the articles. So the phrase 혜인이 아버지로 붙여 세세한 지시를 하고 있다 can be interpreted as like, 혜인이 아버지로 붙여 literally means attach it with Hain's father's name or have it sent from Hain's father. And 세세한 지시를 하고 있다 means it's giving very detailed instructions. So taken together, the sentence is saying that Min Hee-jin gave very detailed instructions, such as having the message sent under Hain's father's name. So contextually, HYBE is alleging that Min Hee-jin was not only orchestrating complaint emails from NewJeans' parents, but also dictating exactly whose name should appear as a sender, including specific instructions like use Hane's dad as a sender. So this is meant to suggest a high level of intentionality and manipulation behind the scenes, not just passive involvement. And HYBE is using this to argue that Min Hee-jin coordinated a manufactured conflict with parental involvement, thus justifying their audit and termination of the shareholder agreement. Now, the interesting thing is, Kane's father, first of all, it was Kane's uncle who connected Min Hee-jin to the chairman or president of Tavo Link, whom they wished to invest or pay money to help Min Hee-jin to take NewJeans out of ADOR. But of course, that strategy fell apart because the word got out and Min Hee-jin publicly denied ever meeting that wealthy man of the company publicly listed in the Korean stock market. Anyway, so that was Hane's uncle. Now, Kane's father was so it turned out in April of this year, Kane's father at some point decided to reject the idea of NewJeans suing ADOR, right? And then that led to a parental conflict. So Hane's mother disagreed with him. And that led to their own court case. And Hane's mother asked the court to limit or restrict her husband's parental right when it comes to this court case. And then she won. So when it comes to the legal battle or this court case of NewJeans versus ADOR, the father, Kane's father, lost his parental rights. So that was kind of interesting because in the beginning, for some reason that we do not know, but only can guess, Min Hee-jin wanted the message to be sent under Kane's father, but then later it was Kane's father who didn't want her daughter to be against ADOR in the legal battle. Ain't that interesting? All right, so here's a summary of HYBE's arguments in court. They're claiming that Min Hee-jin violated the shareholder agreements by attempting to separate NewJeans from ADOR, which undermined ADOR's business interest. This justified HYBE's termination of the contract and exercise of its call option. And HYBE emphasized that Min Hee-jin received 2.7 billion won in salary in 2024, yet still tried to extract NewJeans and is now demanding 27.8 billion won for her shares, calling it unreasonable. And HYBE claims that Min Hee-jin met with NewJeans' parents on March 29, 2024, before the official audit began. They allegedly discussed leaving HYBE and even raising plagiarism suspicions, likely about Eyelet. And HYBE submitted meeting materials as written evidence showing this intent. I would love to see those meeting materials or presentation files. And HYBE argued that Min Hee-jin orchestrated complaint emails from NewJeans' parents by directing ADOR executives on who should send them, what to say, and even which contract clauses to cite. So they HYBE questioned how such deliberate actions could not justify an internal audit. And the bottom line is that HYBE is portraying Min Hee-jin's actions as premeditated, deceptive, and a direct breach of contract, warranting both the audit and termination. Okay? Oh, by the way, I have made a video about NewJeans' parents denying rift involving Heejin, but then they claim that the dispute concerned Heejin instead. That's how we realize that there's something going on between Heejin's mom and dad, some sort of disagreements. Okay, when was this? I think 2 months ago. All right. back to the article, back to the story. Now, let's talk about what Min Hee-jin's legal team said in court. Min Hee-jin's legal team pushed back by stating the shareholder agreement's termination notice was sent on July 8th. But before that, a preliminary injunction had already been filed in May, and the terms of that injunction were still in effect. There were no major issues at the time. Okay. HYBE initially claimed the problem was about ADOR becoming independent from HYBE and about the privatization of ADOR and NewJeans, calling it a hostile takeover. But well after the lawsuit was filed, they suddenly started talking about this so-called NewJeans extraction. They emphasized that there was no such thing as taking NewJeans away, explaining the injunction was filed in May and the shareholder agreement, this is kind of repetitive, but let me read on. And the shareholder agreement termination notice came in July. After that, NewJeans even performed at the Tokyo Dome. At the time of the injunction, the issue was framed as ADOR's independence and privatization of NewJeans, which HYBE called a takeover. Only after the lawsuit began did they suddenly shift the narrative to she was trying to steal NewJeans. Min Hee-jin's side added, HYBE's claims are like a patchwork of private conversations, essentially a fictional story. They're now saying that Min Hee-jin, from the moment she joined HYBE, dreamed of using HYBE's money to build an independent label, recruit trainees, launch an idol group, and then break away with that group. That's ridiculous, they said, if HYBE's logic is to be believed. They're also suggesting that all the way back in January 2019, 5 years before any of this happened, Min Hee-jin already knew that HYBE and Source Music would debut Sakura. Why are they out of nowhere mentioning Sakura of the Seraphim? And others first. Or that HYBE had always planned to launch NewJeans through an independent ADOR label. That kind of hindsight is completely unrealistic. Claims like Eyelid copied NewJeans. None of that could have been predicted back then. That is quite angering. The fact that they're once again referring to Le Seraphim and Eyelids in court. Wow. But you know what? It's kind of ironic because, okay, let me read that part again. They're now saying that Min Hee-jin, from the moment she joined HYBE, dreamed of using HYBE's money to build an independent label, recruit trainees, launch an idol group, and then break away with that group. But that's exactly what it looks like based on, Min Hee-jin's Kakao Talk conversations. Of course, maybe she didn't plan all those back in 2019 when she first joined HYBE. And at the time, she was a chief branding officer. But it looks like she has something fishy going on, making all these deceptive plans as early as 2021. March. Okay? The deal plan is going smoothly, she said, while she was talking with Shaman. But I kept thinking, do I really need to do this? Do I have to do this here? I feel like I could get investments elsewhere. Why use Bang Si-hyuk's money? It's like I'm just doing a favor for Source Music. And Shaman said, it has to be Bang's money, Bang Si-hyuk's money. Looking at the company, it feels like a waste to let it go. In exactly 3 years, it will be like a corporate merger and you will take it over. Yeah, I want to take it for myself. I'll launch the girl group under my label and I'll fight and defeat So Sung-jin, the CEO of Source Music. Who exactly am I supposed to run my label with? Let me close the window. Alright. Who exactly am I supposed to run my label with? Am I teaming up with President Kim Sung-soo of who was the president of Kakao Entertainment at the time? Am I teaming up with President Kim Sung-soo and taking over Bang Si-hyuk's company? Of course, disclaimer, Kim Sung-soo, just the name Kim Sung-soo was mentioned, but based on the context, it looks like she's referring to then president of Kakao Entertainment, Kim Sung-soo. And the shaman said, with the 5 Eagle Brothers, which is a mysterious phrase that we still do not know about, President Kim will take Bang Si-hyuk's company away for you. Wow, so spooky. Min Hee-jin said, it would have been hard without the guidance. We'll achieve everything in just 3 years, Shaman said. How about this? I suddenly want to bring the girl group kids over to my label. She said on June 11, 2021. Now that Sakura's team is forming, it feels like I have a justification for it. Can I have this group as my own from the beginning? They were so eager to debut the Sakura team, so use that to your advantage. Well, but according to the exclusive article reported by Dispatch and all the evidence, it was Min Hee-jin herself who delayed the NewJeans project as late as possible, frustrating the HYBE executives and Source Music executives. So they had no choice but to go forward with Sakura team. And then, of course, Min Hee-jin ended up taking away the NewJeans members as she wished. Let them debut the Sakura team first, and then I'll handle the current girl group myself? Min Hee-jin asked. Make a bold move and say you will take the Team N, meaning Team NewJeans or Project NewJeans. So Seung-jin is going to freak out, LOL. And then, once again, she was talking about taking over a company in June 2021 and snatching the girl group away, taking the girl group away. And then she was talking about a strategy, how they could escape from HYBE. And she was talking about this with vice presidents or deputy executives, Lee Sang-woo. Yes, sounds good. We need to prepare a strategy for how to get out when HYBE gets caught up in a crisis. Let's meet with people from a media company sometime. There's a journalist introduced by an analyst. Yes, sounds good. I'll proceed cautiously. First, I'll meet and build rapport, and slowly soaking in the rain, I'll work on accountants, competitors, investors, outside directors, security firms, media, and public institutions. Wow. Not officially, but through personal networks first. Just like how you win over brand connections with your personal charm. I've been thinking about how we can really screw them over. And then Min Hee-jin was giving directions, separate out key points that the FTC, National Tax Service, and the Labor Office are keeping an eye on and draft that up for me. I've been thinking about how we can really screw them over. Man, I'd love to see Bang Hsia go down. We need to make a move before BTS comes back. For the next 1 year, make life hard for them and we'll get our freedom. That would be good, Min Hee-jin said. And then, of course, there was the whole Project 1945 documents that had a detailed plan on how they can screw HYBE and Bang Hsia over and escape from HYBE with NewJeans. And then Min Hee-jin was asking the vice presidents of ADOR to come up with a list of potential investors who could help them take NewJeans away, and so on. Yeah, and they were being very meticulous about it. Talk about specific players, potential investors, even Dunamu, who's a partner company with the blockchain company that HYBE has partnered with, and they were trying to use them as a potential investor. And speaking of eyelids, one of the vice presidents specifically mentioned that plagiarism argument is it's not likely to work out. But of course, it seems like Min Hee-jin didn't listen to that advice and decided to go ahead with it. But yeah, there you go. Let's keep going. Sorry, I just wanted to include these references to point out that she did make all these plans beforehand, at least as early as 2021. Who knows what she was thinking back in 2019 when she first joined the company, though. All right. So here, where is it? 그러면서 they continued. So Min Hee-jin's legal team continued. Here's what actually happened. The shareholder agreement was terminated in July, and the ADOR board, following HYBE's direction, removed Min Hee-jin from her CEO position. They asked her to return her position, filed for a preliminary injunction, and when that was dismissed, Min Hee-jin exercised her put option and resigned in November. In the meantime, The members of NewJeans were left in limbo. Now, literally translated as the members of NewJeans became orphans. That's the wording that they use. 고아가 됐다. But yeah, they didn't receive proper care or protection from anyone. We tried to resolve that and reinstate Min Hee-jin so that the group could return to a stable system. But HYBE either refused or failed to do so. So things came to a head in November. They concluded, HYBE's entire argument seems to be that Min Hee-jin somehow planned this all in advance, that when she sent the corrective action email in April, she was expecting HYBE to launch an audit, that she would hold a press conference in response, that she would be fired, and then she would leave and take the members with her. They have written this scenario into a new version of their lawsuit like it's a novel. But when HYBE first filed this lawsuit, their stated reason wasn't anything about taking NewJeans. It was about ADOR's independence and the privatization issue. Aside from the evidence submitted for the May injunction, there's no additional material to support their new claims. Honestly, I don't know what they're saying with this argument, but that's what they said. It's interesting how they began this statement. 원고 쪽 주장은 뭐냐면 피고 쪽이 얼마나 머리가 좋아서인지는 모르겠지만 HYBE's entire argument seems to be that we don't know how smart Min Hee-jin is or smart they think Min Hee-jin is. 얼마나 머리가 좋아서 means being intelligent or smart or being, I don't know, sly. Min Hee-jin somehow planned this all in advance according to HYBE. That's how they're trying to, what they're trying to say, right? But man, it is clear that she was making all these strategies and plans behind the doors, though. All right, so that's what Min Hee-jin's legal team said. So they're basically arguing that no, they weren't trying to take away NewJeans. HYBE only began using the term NewJeans extraction, NewJeans 빼내기, well after the lawsuit was filed. Initially, HYBE framed the dispute around ADOR's independence and privatization of NewJeans, calling it a power grab. So they argued that timeline disproves HYBE's claims. May 2024, I'm not going to read all this, but HYBE's accusations are described as stitched together from private conversations and speculative hindsight, like claiming Min Hee-jin plotted this as far back as 2019. But after Min Hee-jin's dismissal, NewJeans was left unmanaged and unsupported or turned into orphans, as they literally said. Her team claims that they tried to reinstate her to restore proper management, but HYBE rejected this. So, according to them, HYBE's lawsuit was revised to push the NewJeans extraction narrative only after initial claims about ADOR's independence failed to gain traction. The defense says that there's no new evidence beyond what was already submitted in the May injunction. Okay, now, what was HYBE's rebuttal then? However, HYBE pushed back, arguing that Min Hee-jin had planned everything even before the shareholder agreement was terminated and before her resignation, and that she had indeed carried out those plans. They stated, Min Hee-jin's side claims the conflict began when the parents of NewJeans members sent complaint emails to HYBE and ADOR. But before those emails were ever sent, Min Hee-jin had already met with the parents at HYBE's headquarters. That meeting included discussions about things like eyelid plagiarism. If that wasn't an attempt to take NewJeans away, then what was it? 이것이 뉴진스를 빼가려는 의도가 아니었다면 무엇이냐? So, yeah. HYBE's claiming that Min Hee-jin planned to take NewJeans before her resignation and the shareholder agreement termination, and the conflict didn't start with parent to complaining emails. Instead, Min Hee-jin met with NewJeans' parents in advance at HYBE building where they discussed issues like eyelid plagiarism, suggesting premeditated intent, and HYBE is framing this as clear evidence of a coordinated effort to extract NewJeans from ADOR. And if you have seen the KakaoTalk messages, there are multiple instances where Min Hee-jin specifically refers to NewJeans' parents, whom she wanted to use as a strategy to take NewJeans away from HYBE. Did you write this from the parents' perspective? She said on March 30th, the day before NewJeans' parents sent a complaint to ADOR. So that's what she said to the vice president of ADOR. Yes, we should think more about the tone of delivery. We can take advantage of the fact that the parents didn't sign a contract with HYBE. Is there anything in the exclusive contract that mentions HYBE? There's nothing related to HYBE, VP said. The contract is between ADOR and the artist. Ha he he, or hoo hoo. Is there any other clause they could raise an objection to? The parents should be ones to report this to the FTC, she said on April 20th, 2 days before HYBE launched an audit into ADOR. It would look odd if we filed the report ourselves. Yes, that seems much better, VP said. Min Hee-jin said, it's easier for the parents to file the complaint. If they do it, it better exposes any gaps. Whereas if we, as a subsidiary, file the complaint, it could lead to arguments about regulations and legalities. Yes, exactly. I think we need to be more cautious with the FTC, VP Lee Sang-woo said. And then she was saying all these. Why? Are we trying to fix HYBE or something? We don't care about improving HYBE's punishment. That's not the goal, is it? We're just reporting them. And the moms and the mothers will go straight to the FTC and handle it fast. Again, referring to the parents. And then even here, the first thing she said in this conversation, the complaints. The parents will raise complaints against HYBE, she said. All right. Let's see. All right, so we're almost there. And HYBE said, this was pretty interesting. HYBE also revealed that they have secured a witness who can testify that Min Hee-jin violated the shareholder agreements and said they plan to question this witness at the next hearing. Boom. I wonder who that will be. But now, Min Hee-jin's side pushed back, insisting they must be informed of who the witness is in order to properly prepare for cross-examination, setting up another point of contention between the two parties. So there you go. Let's sum up what HYBE said. HYBE argues that Min Hee-jin had already planned to take NewJeans before her resignation or the contract termination and followed through on it. They claimed that Min Hee-jin met with NewJeans' parents at HYBE headquarters before any complaint emails were sent and discussed topics like eyelid plagiarism, suggesting a coordinated plan. And they have a witness, they said, who can testify that Min Hee-jin breached the shareholder agreements and plan to question them at the next hearing. But of course, Min Hee-jin's legal team demanded to know the witness identity to prepare, leading to further disagreements in court. And speaking of disagreements, according to one journalist, both sides raised their voices and tensions ran high as they clashed over each other's claims. 나를 세우며 언성을 높이는 등. So I guess these lawyers of both HYBE's Kim and Jong and Min Hee-jin's Sejong law firm are being super dedicated and really into this case as they raise their voices and tensions ran high as they clash over each other's claims. The court, noting that Min Hee-jin's side had questioned the credibility of certain materials, decided it would be best not to present the B2 materials publicly and proceeded with the hearing without them. The next court date is scheduled for September 11th at 3 p.m. Okay. September 11th, 3 p.m. Let's see what will happen then. Who the witness will be and whether the public will be able to see what those KakaoTalk messages or evidence or meeting notes or meeting materials that HYBE wanted to show and Min Hee-jin tries to hide. All right. Do you have anything else? What is this? Oh, no. All right. So let's do an overall summary. So this is a case overview. HYBE HYBE's lawsuit to confirm the termination of his shareholder agreement with Min Hee-jin. That's case number 1. Case number 2, Min Hee-jin's lawsuit against HYBE demanding payout via the put option clause. And they're taking these two cases simultaneously in court. Joint hearing. Next hearing will take place on September 11th, 3 p.m. KST. All right. So conflict. Was the contract terminated before the put option was exercised? According to HYBE, Min Hee-jin violated key obligations of the shareholder agreement, primarily by undermining ADOR's growth and attempting to extract NewJeans from the label, thus breaching trust. Based on this, HYBE terminated the shareholder agreement and triggered a call option to reclaim Min Hee-jin's shares. Since the contract was already terminated, Min Hee-jin no longer had the right to exercise the put option, and HYBE refuses to pay the claimed 278 billion Korean won. Min Hee-jin's argument, though, is that the put option was exercised before HYBE's notice of termination on July 8th, while the shareholder agreement was still legally valid. HYBE initially claimed the dispute was about ADOR's independence and unauthorized privatization of NewJeans, but only after litigation began did HYBE start framing the issue as a NewJeans extraction. Thus, she maintains that the put option is valid and she is entitled to the calculated buyouts. HYBE's main allegation is that NewJeans extraction was premeditated, right? That Min Hee-jin secretly planned to leave HYBE with NewJeans and manipulated internal staff and NewJeans' parents to create tension with HYBE, and held meetings in March 2024 before the audit began with NewJeans' parents, where they allegedly discussed leaving HYBE and even raising plagiarism suspicions. So I wonder to what extent, how much Min Hee-jin's parents, NewJeans' parents knew, and whether they were, I'm being cautious about using the term, brainwashed or gaslighted, or whether they were in this plot from the very beginning, fully aware of her real intention. Who knows? Maybe we'll never figure out, but who knows? And that HYBE claimed that Min Hee-jin personally directed the drafting and sending of complaint emails in the names of NewJeans' parents, down to phrases like use Hae's father's name and deciding who should receive the emails. And then also Min Hee-jin received 2.7 billion Korean won in salary in 2024 alone last year, yet acted behind HYBE's back to damage the company's core asset, NewJeans. The company here referring to ADOR's core assets, the only artist. Therefore, her demand for a 278 billion buyout? No, actually it's a 27.8 billion buyout, calculated based on ADOR's peak valuation. Sorry about that mistake. While she was in charge is unacceptable. Okay. Min Hee-jin's response, she basically denied all NewJeans extraction claims, using the argument that the timeline doesn't support it. If anything, NewJeans became neglected after she left. And then she argued that HYBE is misusing private conversations and unofficial materials like KakaoTalk chats to support a fictional narrative. But, all those materials were available on the company device, and it's her fault that she left those trails there, I think. And then blah, blah, blah. She exercised a put option in good faith under a still valid contract, they said. And her legal team also challenged the admissibility of key evidence submitted by HYBE, calling it inadmissible and inappropriate. All right. So HYBE submitted KakaoTalk chats, meeting slides from March 2024, the meetings between, Min Hee-jin, the VPs, and NewJeans' parents. Email drafts allegedly proving her intent to exit HYBE with NewJeans, and they claim that this proves premeditated contract breach. Min Hee-jin's team, on the other hand, argues that these materials were obtained without proper consent and requested the court not allow public presentation of these materials in court, which makes me even more curious what they're trying to hide. So Judge though agreed to skip the presentation during this hearing, this specific hearing that just happened, citing risk of further public controversy. All right, and then the witness. HYBE said that they have secured a key witness to testify about Min Hee-jin's contract breach. Min Hee-jin's team demanded to know who the witness is in advance to prepare a cross-examination, leading to friction in court. Both sides raised voices, and the atmosphere became heated, but the court decided to continue consolidated hearings and scheduled the next session for September 11, 3 p.m. KST, potentially including witness testimony. All right, so the bottom line is that this legal battle, is about contracts and is about money, but it's also about who betrayed whom first and who gets to claim ownership over NewJeans, and the court's eventual decision will determine whether Min Hee-jin gets her payout, whether HYBE was justified in canceling the deal, and possibly who gets the final say over NewJeans' future. So there you go. I hope this was informative. When I first read the articles, I was like, okay, is there anything new out of this? But then I tried to, once I started to piece these together, I realized that there's quite a bit of information that we didn't know about before. So there you go. Then again, considering what she had planned behind the doors and what she has said, even though she said these in private, she is quite a character, and that's an understatement, as you know. But let's keep monitoring what will happen in the future, and I'll make follow-up videos accordingly if there's any updates. Okay. As always, feel free to communicate by leaving comments, but when you do so, let's try to stay positive, respectful, and classy. Thank you. Peace and love. Bye-bye.